Decorating Pages is a podcast dedicated to taking you behind the scenes of the designs of your favorite TV shows and films. Each episode, I'll be sharing design stories from some of Hollywood's most famous sets, interviews from set decorators, production designers, directors, and actors about creating the look of TV and film, about their design inspirations, and stories that take sets from page to screen. Hello, and welcome to Decorating Pages podcast. I am your host, Kim Wanup, and I swear somebody heard me complain about the weather yesterday, and today was gorgeous. Just gorgeous, not a cloud in the sky weather, no humidity, awesomeness. Took advantage of it. I grew up with humidity back east, and it sucks, and so that is no bugs and less humidity is totally a reason to live in Los Angeles, because you never have an excuse not to do something. The weather's pretty much always on your side here. So, yeah, I complained about it, and look at that. It changed. I had said yesterday in the podcast I was holding out on something that What Wanup's watching, and I started to, let me just ask you this. There's always something somebody's watching that is so good. It's the best. Like, my Uncle Brian was all about The Blacklist. Like, I couldn't believe that I didn't watch The Blacklist. Oh my God, you gotta watch it, you gotta watch it. Dude, it's just not my cup of tea. It's your cup of tea, and you're drinking it. So, good for you. You like it. That's great. I'm not into that anymore. I don't know. I'm just not into it. I did check it out. Spader, you watch an episode, see what's up. People have been telling me about The Bear. Like, oh my God, you would love it. And I know I would. I like that guy from Shameless, which I watched. I came to the party late on Shameless. Only watched about 3-4 seasons. It got super repetitive to me. But to me, he's the breakout of that. Like, you could see he's the good actor in this. And he also does this like Dustin Hoffman thing. I feel like that he's emanating him, or like, I don't know. I just get an early young Hoffman vibe from him, and I like it. Go with it. So started The Bear because I'm like, okay, I'm running out of things. I know I'm gonna like this. Devoured it in like a day. I did save the final episode till the next morning, and then, like a bad mom, I put video games on for my kids and then was like, okay, mommy needs 40 minutes of quiet time, and went in and finished it myself. So The Bear is fantastic. The sets are fantastic in a sense that they look super real in a super real environment, and the kitchen, and I know that I've done kitchens. It's always a process for the designer of the realistic value of how much space they actually are and how much space a shooting crew really needs. The geography of this restaurant was a little off to me, and it took a couple episodes for me to understand what was going on with like this dining center, like room next door, and then they have like a counter, which once I figured it out, I get it, but it wasn't quite obvious to me in the beginning, but maybe that's just me. Production designer, I'm gonna butcher this, sorry. Margie Vesky, awesome. And then set decoration by Eric Frankel for the first season. Fantastic. I thought, I don't know if I've seen I don't watch Chicago Fire or Chicago Hope or whatever's going on, but Chicago looks so shitty and everything that makes me never want to go there. But it's always down. It's always kind of ghetto. And then they show, the L and the river going through. And the only nice thing I can think about Chicago film-wise is Ferris Bueller, right? I mean, that showed some gems, like museums and tall buildings and parades. So, I don't know. I'm excited to start Righteous Gemstones. I think it's season 4, started up this week on HBO, but I didn't get to it yet, but I'm excited about that. I don't know what else. I think that's it. I have had so many episodes in this past month that I'm struggling to find something to talk about. Oh, there is one thing I want to talk about, which is completely off subject, but maybe somebody here knows and can fill me in. What is up with Britney Spears? Why doesn't she have any bottom teeth now? And is this like some deep fake AI just making these crazy videos? Because at first when she got free, I started to follow her on Instagram. And now there's all these conspiracy theories that it's not really her. And I don't know. Does anyone know? I don't know. I tried to Google it and it's all about like her bottom teeth. That AI can't reproduce bottom teeth. And I'm worried about Britney. Like, where is that really her? Because it's crazy. Some of the shit she's doing on this Instagram is crazy. All these dances, like, you got kids. I don't get it. And then there was like, the wedding was fake and the celebrities that were there are in on it. I don't know. But if somebody can point me in like somebody's, like Perez Hilton used to really be on Britney shit. Like when she shaved her head, or when the helicopters were at her house overnight, he was on it, and I believed him. He was a good reporter in that sense. But I don't know. I don't know. I hope Britney's okay. And so if anybody can point me in some direction to see, like, if these are fake, or I don't know what's going on. So sidebar that. Sorry, but that's what I'm into. I know TikTok. I basically fill my TikTok with like recipes and funny baby shit. And then like things that are age appropriate and things that make me feel old, like what was cool in the 80s and 90s and now is not. Remember when. There's a lot of remember whens, like the Rainbow Bright. Who had the Rainbow Bright lunchbox? Well, I did. Like, I like seeing that old stuff that I forgot that I had. And then all of a sudden there's like conspiracy theories of Britney. So that's what those are my couple minutes at night of unwinding. There's not enough housewives for me at this point. So, all right, here we go. Set decorator. All right, here we go. Set decorator Halina Siwolop joins me today to talk about the HBO period series Perry Mason. Halina has decorated both seasons of Perry Mason, and her decorating of the Depression-era Los Angeles is phenomenal. Halina's use of vintage fabrics and period-correct furniture and fixtures gives the feeling of all the different classes in Los Angeles in the 1930s. We talk about finding vintage pieces, old but new-looking fixtures, the use of period-correct locations, and some fabric sources where she hunts down for the perfect style and texture. So I hope you enjoy, because she's also an amazing decorator, an amazing person, super sweet. I've known her for years, and I'm so glad to finally get to sit down and talk about her work, because I really enjoy her work and I look up to her. So I hope you enjoy. I would like to talk about Perry Mason, because I think it was a wonderful show the second season, and you basically got to do all new sets, didn't you?
We did. The only set that we kept was Evie's office that Perry had moved into.
Right.
So we rejiggered it a little bit, but it was essentially the same set.
I don't know about you, but I like that. I like that, I'm going in and it's all new. Or like, half the sets, have gone away and we'll get to do new things this season. Like the going back to the same show and it's all the same sets for some reason is a little boring.
I'm totally with you. And I always think, like, why can't I be more that boring person who just wants to keep doing the same thing over?
I know.
But the really great thing about the second season of Perry Mason was that we did have this whole new world. And it was 6 months later in the storyline, so not a lot had changed, right, other than Perry was having this emotional, like, angst-ridden, like, what is my life? What was the Emily Dodson case? What am I doing? Do I want to be a lawyer that, settles these kind of silly cases, or do I want to do something big? So but the great thing is we entered a lot of new territory, and we're still, we started in 1932, and then second season was in 1933. So nothing really had changed. We're still in the Depression.
Right.
We still had to convey all of that, but we did really fun sets, and the driving force, a lot of this was, of course, what was written on the page. And we had a whole set of new writers the second season,
Oh, wow.
and they really embrace the history of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I mean, the first set did too, but these guys really dug deep into what was the vernacular architecture, like what were the things that were going on. And so we really tried to bring 1933 LA to life.
Oh, yeah.
We got to do the gambling casinos.
I know.
And we did two of those.
I was like, oh my gosh, they did all of this work for this big casino and they set it on fire in the first episode. I was like, oh my God. Oh my God, it was so quick. Oh no. It was beautiful.
Yeah. Well, and the fun part about all that was learning about it. I mean, you go into a job, and especially where there's some history, like when you did the White House, you had to dive deep into what is White House design, right? So we had to dive deep into what was 1933, what was the political climate, and what was the thing, what was popular, how did people talk and walk and eat, and if you lived in a shanty town, like what was life like there? We did a complete Hooverville.
Oh yeah. I loved seeing like, oh, it's the beginning of the Colosseum, or I'm assuming, I couldn't quite tell, but what the fruit store, which is fantastic, was that like on Alvarado Street, like, or like, I couldn't.
You're talking about the supermarket?
Yeah. What part
so
of town?
the supermarket was on the Warner Brothers back lot.
Right. But
and we took a corner shot.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was saying, I know that it was a set, but I'm saying like, because the produce like section downtown is so predominant, I was thinking like, oh, it must be set down there. That's why I was like, oh, look, they're going like, it's not sketchy like it is now. Like, you're not afraid to buy fruit. Like, yeah.
Oh my God. Well, the supermarket was a super big job for us because we first were going to do it on location, and we lost that location. So then we had to punt and find a new location and then build that out. And then visual effects came in to help us out also, because you can only do so much of a 1933 grocery store before it becomes cost prohibitive. And then, of course, that grocery store was fed by the fruit markets that you saw, where we had the crates of fruit and all that was real, and all that had to be like produced. And
it's a huge dress.
You had to learn about that. And again, like that's where I get off on, like, oh my God, I love history. I'm a total history nerd.
Yeah, me too. I love the research. I love diving in and like learning new things, because I would have never done it on my own. At least I'm getting paid to like learn. So
totally. And then it's even better. Like first season, we had a research person on the whole season. So we had this backlog of images and just reference that we could use for second season also. And then second season, we had all new things we had to research, and we did that a little bit more on our own, and that was fun.
Yeah,
just like diving in.
There's so much Spanish architecture influence, and I feel like some of the locations you guys hit really, like, I don't know where that country club was. I kept trying to think like, wow, where is this? Or
that was out in Malibu. That was the the people who owned Adar Farms. What is the or Malibu Tile?
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm blanking on the location name. But that was a private residence that is now, it's like a city park, and you can rent out the interior, I think, but we did all exterior. So we set that all up. We set up all the tables and dressed out the pool area and just turned it into the club area.
Like all of those, because I was like, ooh, that's a lot of umbrellas and pads and like so did you have them made? Did you buy? Yeah, you had them made. Yeah, they were fantastic.
Thank you. So we just bought umbrellas, got, terracotta. I think that was the color, terracotta umbrella fabric. Added the lovely fringe, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the things we love doing, right?
Yeah.
Those little tiny little details like the umbrellas.
Oh yeah. And then when you see them as another decorator, you're like, oof, that was somebody loved those umbrellas, because I know you're not buying them, because I've had to look for umbrellas, and that color is so specific to the time, like in your palette and everything, and the quantity. So I was like, oh, that's fun. That's a fun little Omega or Universal project. I'm sure they did.
Yeah, I mean, thank God for our drapery departments, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Thank God. I mean, last second, can you make this? And they're all on board and excited.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, by the way, I have 3 of these that I need done by Friday. Yeah. Please, thank you.
That's cool, right? Right? By noon, because I got to dress it in before the weekend.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was going to say, that was the thing about Perry Mason, is that you couldn't just put a piece of furniture unless it was like a wood table. Like everything had to be touched in some way. Yeah. Like it had to be restored, brought back to life, because you know how it is. You're shopping antiques down in Pomona or Whittier.
Yeah.
And the pieces are great, but they need some love. They don't look like they're newer in 1933.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. They're antiques now. They were new then.
Yeah.
And so you gotta, clean up that diamond.
Yeah. So we had to reupholster a lot. We had to create a lot. We had to manufacture a lot. But that's the joy of our job, right? I don't think I pulled a single, maybe a couple of pairs of drapery to use on swing sets, but pretty much you had to make everything.
For fabrics of that time, were you able to source that downtown or out of one of the upholstery shops, or where were you getting the 30s look?
Oh my God, just about anywhere you can think of. So we would go downtown, and I found like LA Alex downtown. I don't know if you know that little shop.
Yes.
They had lace fabric for curtains at like $3 a yard. You're like, oh my God, bonanza, because I need 64 yards of this, please.
Yeah.
So we kept going downtown for that. We would go online. Stearns Fabric in the Valley, big treasure trove. They had a ton of lace for us, and then just older looking fabrics, and then online, Etsy and eBay, wherever we could find something that had more than 12 yards, we would just snatch it up.
Yeah, because Stearns is great, but they're a lot, like that's all they have. It's not like, oh, we have this and then we can order you another bolt. It's like, no, this is it. Like, so you're always like, oh, how much is here? Like, can you run this? It's like,
yeah, or you're like, you have 18 yards, but I need 19.
Yeah.
Come on, people.
Yeah. And then you go to upholstery and you're like, just make the hem like a half it. I don't care. Just make the pocket. I don't care. Just don't waste any of this fabric. I've done that.
I'm sure if you turned over some of my couch cushions, it probably has a solid on the bottom.
On the back. Yeah, whatever we see. Whatever we don't see, don't waste it.
Yeah.
Especially with sofas, because that's like, it's a lot of yardage sometimes of like all the pillows and what are the arms and underneath and a skirt if you're having it. And it gets to be a lot of yardage on there, but I don't know how they
And
do
then
it.
you're like, oh, somebody spilled on the top. Let's
Yeah.
just flip it over. And then you flip it over and you're like, nuts. I didn't have enough fabric to finish it off.
I have a nightmare of a fabric story. I won't say who did it, but they fixed it. But I bought a sofa, bought the fabric, but wanted a different arm. And to my own fault, my buyer took it over and explained it to them. And it took like, and I had the time on impeachment. It took weeks and weeks. It was like 8 weeks or something, like 6 weeks. Like they were backed up and they kept getting, because it wasn't a rush. And so I get the call like, oh, the sofa's here. It's down on set. And I went down. It was a completely different sofa. It wasn't the sofa that I bought and took to them. And I literally like collapsed.
So what'd you do?
Fell to my knees and I was like, oh my god, this shoots next week. I waited all this time. It's the wrong sofa. So I called up the guy and I was like, I don't know what happened. I don't know how this got wrong, but I gave you a sofa. All I wanted was the arms and the skirting to be different, and we gave you the reference of that. I didn't want a completely different sofa. And he's like, yeah, I couldn't figure that out. Couldn't figure out why you gave us a sofa, but you wanted a different sofa. I go, okay. What can we do? What can we do?
How did you fix that?
Well, to be honest, the sofa that I had so much woodwork on it. There wasn't a lot of fabric on it but I wanted the skirt and I wanted the arms to be done instead of wood. So we got more fabric. They did it within like 5 days. And now the other sofa that I gave back to them I see it all the time, like on the shelves. They're renting it. And I'm like, I don't care. As long as I got my sofa, it's fine. But I kept thinking, like, why is this taking so long? They built a whole sofa for me and upholstered it in a completely different, like, 90s style, because I wanted a round arm just because of, like, interaction, whatever. But I will never again not, like, look at the person in the eye and explain something to them. Because I feel like it's my fault. I feel like it didn't get explained enough. Nobody's fault, but it just didn't get explained, and I lost like a lot of weeks on that.
and a lot of sleep, and that's why I have gray hairs now. It's oh my god, the stress that these things. But you're right. Like you sometimes have to be so specific. Like on Perry Mason. We recovered a sofa for his parents' house for the first season that we also used in the second season. And I told the paint department, I just want to age down a little bit. Famous last words. I come back. The thing is like almost a different color. Ooh. And I'm thinking, this is paint. I can't take it off. And it shoots like in 2 days.
Of course.
So that was a learning lesson.
Yeah.
And we tried to fix it as much as we could, and then he had a dirtier sofa.
His apartment was cool. I dug the new apartment, I'd have to say.
I liked it too because I love the Spanish architecture.
Yeah.
Right?
I love it. I mean, I lived in a Spanish apartment for 12 years here, and I loved it. I mean, with the exception of, like, the plaster lath walls. Every time you put a nail in, it just sinks. And you're like, oh, is this going to hold? But I love all the little arch details and the train set and everything that was in there. And I just felt like this is so real. This is what he would have moved into. This is what it is. Like, although I loved his first apartment too, because it was more cluttered and more like, because it was on the farm, right? Was his first house on the farm?
He was living in his parents' house.
Yeah, and then he sold it, and so that's why he moved. But yeah.
Yeah, that his apartment was it was based on a place that we were going to shoot at in Mid Wilshire. an old apartment, and then they built it on stage. And the fun we had was sourcing out all those Spanish elements that I feel like I never get to buy these things.
Mm.
And I was able to buy it. So we had I can't remember the vendor, but he's down in San Diego. And I sent my buyer down there. I'm like, I am not spending X amount of money buying 6 light fixtures and they're the wrong thing. And I'm sorry, but have a great trip.
Right.
Make sure you stop for lunch,
Yeah.
right?
If it's a gold mine, let me know. I'll make a Saturday 6-day out of it. But I can't during the week. I can't do this. It's timing. But this is why we have great buyers to go and do this and suss it out.
Oh yeah. I couldn't have done it without my buyers. And I had 2.5. I had one person as part-time. But my team is amazing. And it's hard. Period is hard. There's always like, I can't find it. I can't source it out. It's broken. Like I said, everything needs to be touched. So it just adds another layer. And I kept saying like, I just want to walk into Target and buy towels.
I know. Well, actually, I've done some period, but not the third, like not consistently the 30s as a whole season. So yeah. But I wanted to, there's a specific lampshade that you used in Dodd's bedroom that's like kind of square. I think it had some fringe, but it's gorgeous. And I was like, oh, that is such a gem of a find. And then I thought, oh, I wonder if like they found it, and then lighting was like, no. And then like, I'm always like in a fighting with lighting at this point in my career of like, and I think if you bought older practicals, was it like no a lot, or it has to be LED, we have to rebuild it? No, like how did that go?
So we had a fixtures guy, and basically, first of all, we buy all these old fixtures, and you're like, God, I hope this works, or I hope we can make it work, right? Yeah. Because it's gorgeous and I want to use this lamp. So we just gave it to our fixtures guy, and they would rebuild it. Sometimes they put a different light source in, but pretty much they left it. They just made it better. And then it was always that idea of how do we make this moody, and how's the lighting going to create that, right?
Yeah.
Because they want the source lighting. Also, where we place our lights creates such interesting pools of lights. And, you can, and then in ours, it was all about being darker, being a more noir feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so my big battle was like, how can I find interesting shades that are in the right color tone? Because you can't put in new white shades. So we were constantly on the lookout for, Practical Props had a really great, they were a great source for us. And they had a lot of vintage things. So I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking that shade you're referencing might have come from Practical Props. Mm. We also would just buy from some online vendors and Etsy people who make these things and just source out. And then also, you're out in Pomona, you're like, oh, that's an amazing lamp. And that shade is actually in good shape for buying it right now.
It's hard to get good in shape shades that aren't, that are appropriate sometimes. Sometimes it's just the fixture you're buying, and then you gotta, I hate shading, but I never did it before impeachment, but I had shades made because the color tone of everything had to be like darker or peaches or whatever they wanted. So I was like swatches of shades with the DP, like, will this work? Will this work? Like, and then I got like 6 that he liked, and I was like, sweet. This is what we're doing all season. Sweet. Thanks for your answer. I'm going to run with it. But yeah, shades are hard. I don't know what it's. I think I took a picture of it. I know I like paused it and like took a picture of it because I was like, whoa, that shade
Oh,
is
I love that.
fantastic.
I love that my shade spoke to you.
Oh, yeah. Well, because I get jealous. I watch other people's work and I'm like, God damn it, where did they get that? Where did they find that?
I do that all the time.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, but I've never had to shop for that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
where is that? And why don't I know about that?
Do you like doing period? I mean, you were in Masters of Sex for so long and in period and and then Legion was kind of period. I don't know. Legion was
all over the board.
Legion was I loved that show. I loved it. I don't know what was going on, but I loved it. The last season really, I don't know, no idea. But I loved that show. I thought it was fantastic. The look.
I worked on it. I read the scripts. I still didn't know what was going on. And then I watch it going like, God, that's not how I read it at all.
Yeah.
But I love doing period because, again, I'm going back to I'm a total history nerd.
Yeah.
And I remember watching this show on like BBC called 1900, and it was about it was a reality show where they put people in a 1900 Victorian in London, and the guy who was hosting it, he said, "Oh yes, I'm a social historian," and I thought, oh, that's what I want to be, you know. And I feel like when we decorate, you know, period sets, that's what we're doing. We're basically we're diving into social history. How do people eat? How do they live? How do they clean themselves? Like, you know, all that stuff. So again, going back to our research, like we love the research. It's so much fun. And I had never done the 30s, but it was super yummy.
Yeah.
It was yummy from the 30s glamorous side of it to the Hooverville side.
Yeah.
Which was sad, but also, you know, you have all those lovely textures. I'm sure the poor people are like, you're talking about my hovel with textures, but you know what I'm saying.
We made it nice. We made it nice.
No, but you know, you add all these things like, oh, what did they use for window coverings? Oh, they tore up, you know, flour sacks and they used that as their tablecloth or their window covering. So those are the textures I'm talking about. And, you know, how did people reuse things? So I loved learning about that.
Yeah. Where did you do that? Where did you do that at?
We built that out at Mystery Mesa. Oh. And was it Mystery Mesa? No, I'm getting it wrong.
It was
one of the big places.
It's a lot. I mean, it's like a maze of you know, like shantytown. Like it was a lot of dressing.
So we built a number of they were all exteriors except for the few interiors we had to do. And then right next to it we built all the oil derricks.
Yeah. You built those? Oh wow. I thought you were up in like Baldwin Hills.
Right? Which is like when you look at history, that's exactly where it was.
Yeah.
Right? It's also in La Brea. Like if you look at old research, it like lined La Brea going up and down with the oil derricks. No, we built those to a certain point and then VFX took over after that. But we built a number of them and had to dress all around it. So that was interesting.
The one episode I started to text you, but it was like 10:30 at night because I thought
you're drunk texting me.
I'm like, what's one up doing?
What's she doing?
She's watching my show and she's obsessed with, was Hope Davis's backyard, that location, was that the house for Mommy Dearest? Do you know?
That's a really good question. It was a Paul Williams designed house in Beverly Hills. Wow, I don't know. I haven't seen that movie in so long. Now I have to go and watch it and compare
I watch it all the time. And I was like, and then I doubted myself and I'm like, it's not it. It is it. It's not it. And then I was like, I can't text her anyway. And then I was like, oh, you're nuts. It's not it. But the way also, I think you had yellows by the pool which is what they had. And then I was like, wow, this has to be the Mommy Dearest. And when they came back to it later in the season, I was like, oh, maybe it's not. But wow, it really looks like it, because the house is almost on a hill, and they have to come down to the pool. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, that location was beautiful, but the current owners had gutted the inside, so it was completely modern.
Ugh.
And then the whole pool area, everything was super modern. So, you know how it is when you go on location, like, oh, you can do this, but you can't do this.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, how am I supposed to put window treatments up or paintings?
Yeah.
And we couldn't do a lot of that. So there was a lot of jerry rigging of curtain supports, and down at the pool that you're referencing, like we made that. We made all the sunbrella.
Oh wow.
Not balances, but
Were they balances on
the exterior?
Awnings? On the awnings, yeah. The awnings?
The awnings,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I haven't had enough coffee yet.
No.
So the awnings, we created all of that, and we created the patio covering, but it all had to be temporary. Like, you couldn't go into the building. Right. So again, that's where the value of having a really good draper is great, because you're like, okay, please make this work, and fingers crossed that this doesn't fall down in the wind.
Yeah. Or while they're shooting.
Exactly. Usually... That's always the joy.
Yeah. So then the interior of her house was a different location, or was that a build?
No, it was all, so we shot inside that location. And so it was the downstairs for where she had the pianos, one of her pianos set up for the earlier scenes. And then we went upstairs in the house for, there's that one scene, I don't know if you remember, where she's like dancing, her arms are out, she's kind of swaying and dancing. And there was another piano up there, and I think that's when she was like,
she's getting drunk or something then, isn't
she? I was going to say, I couldn't remember if it was drunk or if it was like a morphine high or something. Yeah. But same house, again, completely modern, beautiful, stunning Paul Smith carpet on the floor, white couches, no window coverings, nothing. And then a ton of bookcases. So construction came in, we designed cabinet doors to hide a lot.
Nice.
And then we had to bring in a baby grand piano to the second floor.
Your guys love you. But that's piano movers. That's not even our guys, right? I mean,
those are piano movers. That was quite a feat. And then, there was no elevator. All that stuff had to come up, but
and they're all slipping on the layout board, and like you're like, oh my god, we're totally gonna ruin the staircase, and that's always what I think. Like, I don't even want to watch.
If you look really closely, especially in the downstairs set, I got these giant paintings. I think I rented them from Omega, and I had to lean them. I had to create a support, and I had to lean them because we couldn't hang anything on the walls. And we're like, how am I going to cover white walls that we can't do anything to?
Yeah, it's a joke, and it's getting so much worse. Of like, oh, and the bigger joke is, oh, and you can't paint, and you can't do this, and you can't, and so the designer's like, well, what are we doing here? I don't know why you said yes to this. We can't do anything here. Now I can't put anything into the walls. So it just falls to us. Like, and sometimes they bring in walls for texture, wallpaper, whatever, fake walls, but a lot of times there's no time or, prep for that. They don't have the time to do it. So then it's just us like, let me lean a couple pictures here. Let me throw up some drape on this wall so I can cover all this white void that you've given me. I don't know,
and you're hoping somebody doesn't stop the frame.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Closely.
Yeah. Don't Don't do that. I've had plenty of times of that.
Yeah,
Do you,
it's all smoke and mirrors, Kim.
I know. So
Everything
that's
we
what that's
do.
we're magicians, really, is what we are. Um, I liked working for HBO. Did you like? I liked. I mean, I felt like
Oh,
it was a great. Um, I don't know. The feedback we got was always like good. I mean, I guess that's a compliment. Sorry, but there was also just understanding with the producers of money and time and what the show really is. Like,
yeah.
there's other companies to work for, and it's like, oh no, you have $1, and you're like, I know, but it costs 10. It's 10. And with HBO, they're like, okay,
I will totally sing HBO's praises
yeah,
because they were really delightful to work with. And we had different producers for each season, but both teams were great. And I feel like that's HBO. Like they
yeah,
hired these really people who understood the project. They understood that, I needed X amount of money because it's period.
yeah,
Uh, and they were just delightful, and they gave you great response,
yeah.
and just enough time, especially going in the second season. I had the producer call me and say, like, okay, so tell me what wasn't awesome about first season. And I
Time.
thought, like, I've never had a
I've
producer
never.
ask me that.
No, I've
So
never.
I loaded. I'm like, all right, this is what really sucked because um first season was a lot of locations, and you know, Tommy always says he's down in the local 44 history as having the most trucks and the most people. And one day it was 15 trucks and 39 set dressers. So that's
That's
ridiculous.
absurd.
Like, how do you manage that in one
No,
day?
you can't. Not with traffic.
Yeah. So exactly. So I really felt like they actually listened, and they made second season um, more palatable as
Mm,
far as for us to get the job done. And also, Keith Cunningham came in second season, and he was really great about, okay, well, how can we reuse this space? How can we not go out as much? How can we do this in a space that's close here in LA
yeah,
and make it work?
yeah,
And that was helpful too. So you weren't in San Pedro, Long Beach, Thousand Oaks,
yeah.
and Hollywood all on the same day.
Yeah, three different worlds. I mean, even to drive it is like ridiculous. And then, your FaceTime decorating, which I've done because locations are, and then something goes, they want something else. They want to turn around now. Now I got to stay on set. Okay, I'm not going to get there by noon. I'm driving and FaceTime decorating at the same time. That's always fun. That's always
Yeah, I
fun.
mean, first season I had to bring in I brought in other set decorators
Yeah,
because,
me
just to
too.
like, okay, you're going to be taking care of these sets, or because you just can't do it all.
Yeah. And more, like especially just doing the petitions and everything for the Emmys, because I thankfully am your next in line, and so I have big shoes to fill. But the petitions for more art directors, because it's a big show, are getting more and more. And, why is there only one decorator? Why is there, I mean, there was a couple petitions for more decorators, but probably triple the amount for more art directors because the shows are getting so big and they have to be in different places doing different sets, but so do we. So I think as decorators, we really need to be like, I can't. We need two decorators on this. I don't know, odds and evens or however you want to do it. Or maybe there's a creation of supervising set decorator. I don't know. I don't know how to do this, but the shows aren't getting smaller. So
No, and I think you're right. I think we're going to be at that point on certain shows when it calls for it. You're going to have a supervising set decorator.
yeah,
Now, some people like to do an episodic switch, where I do all the odds, you do all the evens or
yeah,
whatever. I've never worked that way.
I haven't either.
I like the idea of being a supervisor, of having other people. That way you kind of keep your hand in the pot and see what's going on. But that's a big job too.
Oh yeah. On For All Mankind, I brought, after the first block, which almost killed me, I brought in a second decorator, and she was Laura Harper. She just did locations, like locations that are new, like the existing characters. I got this that I already did because I already did them. So I know where that tchotchke goes when we go there. I don't. It's fine. But all the new locations, and that worked out well because then we had so many changeovers on the stage and so builds and everything that just not to go out and do things was such a help. And it was manageable for her coming into like a crazy world and like, okay, I can do this. So I just think it needs to be brought up in the beginning. Now I know, like, it's always like after the fact, like you have to learn. And then like now I know, like when I interview, like who's the DP? Who's the art director? Ooh, okay. I'm gonna need more money.
Well,
I'm gonna need more salary to put up with that guy.
Well, that goes to the whole idea of like, when you're negotiating your salary, right? Yeah. So you can sit there and say like, well, great. If you're paying me scale, then you're getting somebody who's just started out in the business. Let me tell you why.
Yeah,
I should get a different salary because I have all this experience, and part of that experience is learning what it's going to take.
Yeah,
how are you going to tackle the big jobs? I mean, you've worked on giant jobs, and it's like, oh my God, I learned this, and now I'm going to take that to the next job.
And you basically have to tell them, I'm worth it, and I'm going to save you money. If you are or you aren't, you have to say, I'm going to save you money. And because of experience, we do save money here and there. We know how to cut the corners. They're not really going to see this. I know where my focus is. I'm not going to, or I have to reupholster this. But I can get something cheap over here. Like that's the experience, the like coconut game that we play. And the don't code it to that episode. Use up all the amort. That game that, you really get to be a master at it after a while of like, oh no, code that, don't code that, well, put lighting requested on that. I'm not paying for that. So there's the game with experience that you have to play. But yeah, I just think the shows are getting too big. And I talked to so many people, and it's like, oh, we had 4 art directors. We had we had a supervising and 2 art directors and 6 assistant art directors. And I'm like, oh, and who was your decorator? Oh, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, cool. They're probably in a mental institution right now, and you had like 8 people under you. Like, cool. So, I don't know. I'm hoping, but I feel like good producers know that the decorator takes on so much, and, like asking you, what can we do to make it better? Like, I feel like they know how much we do. Good ones.
I think so. Like I got hired for this movie that started 5 days before the world shut down for COVID. So that went away. But I remember talking to them, and they really wanted to lowball me. And I said, I might not be the decorator for you then.
Yeah.
Like if this is all you want to pay. I said, but let me tell you why I am the person for this job. And at the end of the conversation, he said, great, I'll hire you at what you want. And I thought like,
that's great.
Whoa. But this guy knew. So if you can present your case and say, I've got experience, I've done this, like you said, I'm going to either save you money or I'm going to manage my budget well.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's all they want to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think that there is the newer decorators who are getting very good rates, and I want you to get every dime you can, but they're not ashamed. They're like, it's like the millennial, like no shame. Like, yeah, no, I I got, I'm making feature money. And you're like, what? What? Good for you. Man, I'm begging for like a phone. Like I'm begging for $5 a week for a phone. Like so.
Is it because we started off,
Well, I do.
right?
I think it's just a whole different self-worth mentality that I don't know. Is it bad that I'm asking for lunches? Or what? Just want one gas receipt a week? Like why am I pissed?
I'm going back to like, we've been doing it for so long,
Yeah.
and I feel like we used to always get beaten down.
Always.
Like you would ask for things and it's like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
And so then you do kind of feel like, oh my gosh, can I ask for this?
Yeah. I know. And then also, if I take over a show, I really do like to look at like, well, what did they spend their money on? Or how many man days did they have? Or how many full crew did they have? And why are we still like a base of 4 swing guys when this show is gigantic? That's not the base. This is not the base. I couldn't do one day here with 4 swing guys. So why is that? Why now do I have to beg for more than 4 when it's 10, 12 base? Like, So it is. I don't know why. And I think it's the art department in the whole. I think designers have to beg for shit too. Like, we want the money for this. We can't do that. I can only have my graphics guy on for this long. Like, I think it's just, I don't know how costumes goes. I think they just get what they really want. I don't know. But I feel like the art department, set decorating department in general, we beg for our shit. We beg for everything. It sucks. And it's every show. It's not.
Look at the character you're building, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I don't know. I love it, though. And I know you love it. And I love talking to people who have worked with you, who love working with you, and love talking about, like, oh, she just gets down to, like, these beautiful little details. And, like, she has such a great eye. And, like, everyone loves working with you. So I'm so glad to talk to you about this because I've been meaning to get you on here.
That is so sweet, and
it's true.
I love hearing that. Thank you. I'm a Virgo, so I am super detail oriented. But I think the beauty is in the details, and the balancing act for us as set decorators is how do you get the big picture done and then still do those small little details, because you don't always have time to do that.
Yeah and that's the character. Like, it's not all props and everything. It's a lot of us before props gets in the room. They get to do some fun shit, but yeah.
I wish I could get my own house designed though. And why is it my own place is so hard?
But it's true. Like, I'm saying, like, Isn't she just the sweetest? Like, you could tell in her voice, she is just the sweetest person, and I am such a fan of her work and inspired by her. And it's true. I have heard nothing but great things from other buyers and decorators about working with her. So I very much look up to her work. And she's just super nice. You gotta love that. I get to see her at Emmy meetings or the SDSA meetings, and it's always great to catch up with her a little bit. And so I'm so glad that she was available for this to promote her work, because I just think Perry Mason is stunning, and she does a great job. And LA in that period is great, and the architecture here is fantastic, and for her to embellish it with her decor is fantastic. So let's see, we're done Emmy voting on Monday, the 26th, for anyone out there voting. I have tons of interviews here for you to check out, from Schmegadoon or Only Murders in the Building, Succession, Dead Ringers. Yesterday we had George and Tammy, the Rabbit Hole, even going back to the arc. I mean, there's Maya Siegel for Hello Tomorrow. I mean, I have a lot of interviews if anybody needs to listen before they vote. I hope it helps, and it's been an absolute pleasure to speak with everyone. And I may have another interview tomorrow. As if you're not sick of me enough, I might have tomorrow. I'm trying to work it out. Maybe one last one. If not, I will see you or speak with you next week. But again, Emmy voting ends on June 26th. So if you haven't voted yet, please do that. And I hope you have enjoyed everyone in this little pre-Emmy series. And I hope you got an earful. I am Kim Wanna for Decorating Pages.